Now, the president of Ghana is asking that the whole world should come to recognize and agree that this was one of the worst crimes that humanity have ever committed, and therefore justice should be served.
Enslaved Africans were trafficked to America. The entire transatlantic slave trade was designed to deny African people their humanity. A racial hierarchy that deemed whiteness superior and blackness inferior. Some will hear this and think I'm splitting hairs.
And imagine Africans to, look for justice or maybe to take compensations for slave trade. It's going to be billions and trillions of dollars. It sounds crazy that if this is defined, it means that Africans can now sue countries like US, UK, France, Portugal for, committing the serious crime that humanity have ever done, like slave trade. And therefore, they need to pay for compensations, pay for damages caused.
When it comes to the contributions that Africa has made to enriching Europe and building the so-called New World, the silence is deafening.
In Africa, our forefathers were forcefully taken. Families were destroyed. Millions were taken out of the country in the name of what? Slave trade. The craziest part is that generations of today are suffering for the damages that was caused by slave trade. And Ghana is just asking for three things. Let me say three things. To me, I would say Ghana is asking for three things. Ghana is asking for recognition, because Ghana want the whole world to recognize that slave trade was not just history, but it was crime that humanity have ever committed. And therefore, what follows? It means justice have to be served. And then we gain our dignity. This is for Africa. Now, if we talk about justice, what is justice? What is different about this? Now, people believe that if the United Nations agree to what Ghana is actually requesting for, is going to lead to a bigger problems, bigger issues, escalation of tensions. And what is this? Let me brief you something that people actually do not understand. If the United Nations finally agrees or accept to the fact that transatlantic slave trade was one of the worst or the gravest or the serious crime that humanity have ever committed, it means that justice needs to be served. And if we talk about justice, we talk about repatriations, we talk about compensations. That is what we talk about justice, compensations for the damages caused for what generations are suffering now. To me, my point of view, basically, if this becomes consideration, if the United Nations considers this or accept this as, really one of the worst crimes that humanity have ever committed, it's going to sound interesting, because it's going to give Africans the forum, the opportunity to define recognition and seek for justice, and therefore we can regain our dignity as the foreign nations. Despite the fact that we have gained independence, we still see ourselves like being under our colonial masters, and therefore, like, slave trade is actually, viewing it perspectively, it's actually one of the serious crimes that humanity have ever committed. Because imagine taking someone forcefully from their place of comfort, from their country to a different country, not to just go and rest, but to go and work hard labor, construction work. I mean, those days was kind of crazy. So, like, this is a call to all Africans. Are you supporting what the president is initiating, what the president of Ghana is initiating, or maybe you have a different point of view of that? Because I see this as a move on the right direction for Africans to be able to define and recognize its sovereignty, and therefore maybe we might need justice. Definitely. Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, this is the crazy stuff. One of the interesting things that have ever happened in African history. What the president of Ghana is asking for. I mean, transatlantic slave trade is actually something crazy that, yeah, I think thumbs up to the president, because this is actually going to bring something big if maybe accepted. But I doubt, in my point of view, I doubt that the United Nations is actually going to accept this, because countries like United States, United Kingdom, France, Portugal, Spain are really going to find it difficult to agree or accept that this was actually one of the worst crimes that they have ever committed. And maybe if possibly compensation is needed, justice need to be served. It means these countries need to pay billions and trillions of dollars to compensate Africans for the damages caused. And it's gonna give Africans the opportunity to be able to sue their colonial masters for the worst crime that they have ever committed or done to them. And that is now causing them pain, distraction, and a whole lot. So, this is a whole perspective that we actually need to look into that. So, ladies and gentlemen, basically, this is the current update that I have for you, but I'm gonna give you recent updates. I'm gonna follow up, see what happens next. In that case, I want you to stay tuned, subscribe to Joy Ideas Series, let me know your point of view in the comment section. Is this a move in the right direction, or is this a change in the right direction? Let's talk in the next episode. See you. We out.